All right, so let's talk about Loki episode 6 and Loki in general. Overall, I really enjoyed Loki, the show, the series. But one thing I don't like is multiverse bullshit. This is something I've had an issue with for years and years and years, not just in Marvel, but multiverses and alternate realities in general, because I think it's a cop out. I think it takes away from any real drama in our real world. But as far as episode 6 goes, you did have Kang the Conqueror. We actually got one right. Kang showed up, the King the Conqueror. This was a very nice version of King the Conqueror. We'll see, I guess, the badass version of King the Conqueror, I believe, in Ant-Man and Wasp, since it's confirmed that he has been cast in that movie. Maybe even Doctor Strange. We'll see where that goes as well in the multiverse of madness. So it looks like Kang is going to be kind of the big next level MCU villain. And for me, I like Kang the character. I like King the Conqueror as a character, as a villain in MCU, but I don't like the multiverse stuff. So the episode itself was fine. I mean, they went through this, magical portal at the end of time or whatever. And I really wanted them to end up in the quantum realm, because this would have kept things separate where you could still have all this stuff and have fun with different universes or different realms or whatever, but not really affect the main timeline that we're dealing with in the MCU. But they go through the portal, they find this little mansion where Kang's hanging out by himself at the end of time, and he knows everything that's going to happen. He was kind of the weird, quirky Kang. This is obviously a variant, like he mentioned himself. And then it gets to a point where he no longer knows what's going to happen. That was the threshold he was talking about. And you had Lady Loki, Sylvie try to kill him. Then you had Loki trying to say, I don't know, maybe it's better if we do just keep him alive. That way, because listen to what he's saying. If you kill him, you're going to have all these horrible things happen. The episode itself was kind of boring, actually, because he just sat there literally and talked and spilled the beans on the whole thing. And I really enjoyed the theory and kind of went along with the theory that it was going to be in the quantum realm that we saw in Ant-Man, which would obviously fit into the next one being King the Conqueror, being the villain. But he didn't say that. So as of right now, it looks like there are actually just multiple universes and timelines where the different variants of different people. And that's what I mean about the whole multiverse thing. It takes away from the main timeline. You have a place somewhere, wherever it exists, outside of time, where Kang is hanging out in his little mansion, and Infinity Stones and all that stuff don't mean a damn thing there. Magic, none of the shit that we care about in Marvel means anything. And that means that death has no real meaning. People don't have free will. Everything's pre-written or whatever, because otherwise the TVA swoops in and changes everything or whatever. So although you can still kind of just focus on our main timeline, you know that Loki's out there somewhere from the movie in another reality now, in another timeline, still alive, when in our timeline, of course, he ended up dead in Endgame. So just that whole concept of, well, they can always kind of bring somebody back, or they can always bring somebody over from, this other reality. They could do the mutants this way and completely ignore the source material and just bring in mutants from another universe where they already exist. For example, instead of having Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, find out that her father's Magneto, they could just bring Magneto in from another reality somewhere and bring in the mutants that way. And I don't like all that stuff. This is the same reason that I only watched the first Star Trek movie that J.J. Abrams did, because, again, I mentioned this before, because they destroyed Vulcan, and not to get into the whole Star Trek thing, but when they destroyed Vulcan, that basically destroyed every show that you'd ever enjoyed about Star Trek, all the way from the original series to the Next Generation to Deep Space Nine. None of that even mattered, because destroying Vulcan would have ripple effects that would screw up all those shows, and these people would never even exist, half of these people. And I know that's not how time works in the MCU, but I'm just saying it makes it feel pointless when they say, oh, it's just an alternate reality. That's not the real Captain Kirk, and that's why I didn't want to see it. I didn't give a shit about the other Captain Kirk and the other reality. I wanted to see the Captain Kirk that I grew up loving and seeing his past and what he went through in Starfleet and all that kind of stuff. And the same goes for the MCU. I don't want to see this to get so convoluted to where we can start bringing in all these different people. Nobody really dies because even though it's a variant and somebody, for example, like Black Widow, she's dead, they can now bring in a Scarlett Johansson from another universe, and she's almost the same as herself, just not quite the same, don't have the same memories, where she could quickly learn where she fits in this world and just simply decide to stay and rejoin the Avengers. And I don't like that. Although I'd love for her to be back, and I hate it when she died, that's what has the impact of her death, is knowing that she's really gone. So overall, I did really enjoy Loki. With that, all that said about the multiverse stuff, I did enjoy Loki, the show. They did confirm season 2. They said that Loki will return in season 2. So this is the first Marvel show where they're actually going to have multiple seasons, apparently. So maybe they can still confirm that this does take place in the quantum realm, which would be okay in my opinion. I think with the quantum realm, you can have all this kind of weird shit going on, and it doesn't affect our main timeline in MCU as far as all these multiverses where shit don't really matter.